wanted to show you another tool that really is like the photoshopping tool that people use, and I'm going to use it in this case to improve this image. If you'll notice, this is a book that's been read quite a bit. So this cover has damage on it. So we're going to basically do a restoration of this book cover. And you can see some of the cracks in the cover there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here to the background layer, and I'm going to add another blank layer on top of that. And the reason I'm going to do that is because the changes that I'm going to make, I don't want to alter the original. I'm going to paint pieces over this using the cover. And the way to do that is with the clone stamp tool. This clone tool right here is going to allow me to source the current layer and the one below it. So watch what this does now. You can see a little tiny spot there. I'm going to make it a little bigger using my bracket keys. It is possible to go in and get specific numbers. I'm going to go ahead also and decrease the hardness. You want to have a somewhat soft edge to this, or it makes it really obvious. So let's take a look here. Now that I've got my size more or less what I want, I'm going to go just above, let's do this, right above where this line is, and hold down the Alt button. And that's going to tell me where I'm going to sample from. So it's going to copy from where I am now to the very first place that I click. And now I can just paint over this. You can see the little white spot there where it's painting from. And if I do that again, you can see how, whoa, that's not working so good. Control Z. There's a lot of Control Z doing this. I'm going to Alt click again. I'm going to go a little bit to the left and above, sample from there, and paint on top of it. Now if you want a bigger brush, let me try and do this a little more quickly. I'm going to sample from over here, go over to the left, and just paint on top of that. And watch what I can do here. I can turn off my background and you can see exactly what I did paint. Let me do that some more here. Let me find another big area. This one's going to be a lot trickier. Let me start off by sampling to the left and then going to the right and paint that in. You could also crop that off, but it might be better if we just fill that in. If you're really worried about like, oh, I'm going to lose a lot of my image if I cut any more off, you can actually fill in those edges pretty well. I'm going to make this smaller again, my bracket key going down. I'm going to sample very close to this line so it's not so obvious. If I'm way over here and then I start painting there, you can tell, right? So I'm going to sample pretty close to it, go over next to it, and try and just paint some of that in. And stop every once in a while. You want to be careful with your history. Like you can pretty easily lose how far back you can go. So you want to be careful as you're doing this. And it's constantly like sampling, coming down here, paint over that. Go over here to the left, carefully paint in here. So that's not a very good job, and so I'm going to just try that again. Maybe zoom in. That's the biggest thing you can do to make your improvements, is you can be a lot closer, and then when you paint, you can get colors that are more like the ones that should be there. It takes practice. It is not an easy thing, but you can do all sorts of stuff by just sampling close by and taking out little imperfections. Here's one right here. So I'm going to press the Z zoom button, zoom in on it, go back to my clone stamp, sample, and paint over that. So you can imagine with photographs of people and whatnot that you could make improvements very, very easily. And again, when you export this as a JPEG or PNG, all of that is going to be merged together with the background layer. If I turn that off, you can see off and on the parts that I did fix. And again, this is the original right here. So these are being applied to both the layer 1 small bits and the background at the same time. I'm going to show you how to do this in Photoshop too, and you'll see the real difference why people pay for the latest and greatest software.